Welcome to your weekly Leadership Principle by Coach AJ and the mentor team at Martin County PAL. At Martin County PAL, our goal is not discipline, it is growth. We meet youth where they are and help them develop into healthy, productive leaders for the future. This week, the conversation focused on courage as a choice and facing our everyday fears.
And, just being in that room tonight, the energy it was really something else.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just a lecture at all.
No, not at all. It was this incredibly raw, real conversation about what actually scares these kids.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being 15 years old, sitting in a crowded room with all your peers and admitting out loud what terrifies you.
Yeah.
And admitting that your biggest fear isn't like failure or the dark, it's your mom or your dad.
Which is, man, that is a heavy reality to sit with. But we're going to unpack exactly what we saw happen in that session today.
Right.
We're going to look at, how fear actually works in a teenager's brain, why courage is a muscle you can train, and how we as parents might accidentally be running a boot camp for the exact wrong kind of fear.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point.
So I was standing right near the back of the room when the session kicked off, and I have to say, it started out deceptively simple.
Very simple.
Yeah, I was watching Miss Kimberly lead the youth through this icebreaker, and she told them, you don't even need to use your voices, just use your thumbs.
Right, just a quick thumbs up or thumbs down.
Exactly. She started painting these relatable scenarios for them, middle school and high school stuff. She asked them, okay, you see someone sitting completely alone at lunch. Do you walk up and invite them to sit with you, or do you just walk away?
Right.
Thumbs up for inviting them, thumbs down for walking away, and then another one. Your friends are making a bad choice. Do you stand up to them or do you just go along with it?
And just watching the physical reaction in the room was so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because, almost instantly, especially the kids in the front rows, their thumbs shot straight up into the air.
Oh, yeah. Super fast.
It's human nature, right? We all want to be the brave one. In a totally hypothetical, zero-stakes situation, it is incredibly easy to say, yeah, I'd do the right thing.
See, and I was watching that, and I was actually feeling pretty skeptical in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, come on, you're not all fearless superheroes. It felt almost performative, like they were giving the answer they knew the adults wanted.
Oh, for sure. And that is exactly why the mentor team didn't just pat them on the back and move on.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that performative bravery, too.
They really did. They pushed right back.
Yeah. They didn't let them off the hook at all. They challenged the room to stop with the hypotheticals and start looking at the actual real-world social cost of that courage.
Which changes everything.
Completely. They were like, sure, it's easy to say you'll sit with the lonely kid right now, but what happens tomorrow in the cafeteria when your cool friends laugh at you? Or if that kid rejects you?
And the whole atmosphere in the room shifted right then.
You could physically feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. The air got heavy. The thumbs weren't going up nearly as fast.
And then the mentors transitioned to asking them what actually scares them in their daily lives.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability was it was breathtaking.
It was so quiet in there.
You could hear a pin drop. And nobody was giving superficial answers either. Nobody was saying, oh, I'm afraid of spiders or heights.
No, they went incredibly deep right out of the gate. Like one student raised their hand and admitted their biggest fear was abandonment.
Wow.
Just let that sink in for a second. A teenager who is, biologically wired to care so much about what their peers think, openly admitting a deep psychological fear like that.
It's amazing they felt safe enough to do that.
It really is. And then another kid described their fear in this way that I just thought was brilliant. They said they were terrified of getting lost in the sauce.
Yes. Lost in the sauce.
Huh.
I actually pulled out my notebook and wrote that phrase down immediately.
It's so descriptive.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it developmentally, it's profound. Teenagers are trying to figure out who they are, right? Apart from their parents.
Right. They're building their identity.
Exactly.
Right.
So the fear of getting lost in the sauce, of just floating through life, conforming, just existing as a background character and never being authentically yourself, that is a fear of psychological invisibility.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
To a teenager, being invisible feels like a kind of death.
It really does. But here is where we need to have a very blunt conversation. Because I was taking notes, nodding along with the lost in the sauce comment, and then came this moment that genuinely rocked me.
Yeah, the room got really tense.
It was a jarring reality check. Multiple kids in that room openly admitted that their deepest, most paralyzing fear was their parents.
It was so heavy. You could actually see some of the adults in the room stiffen up.
One student specifically said their biggest fear is their dad getting mad. And then another one chimed in, almost like they were relieved someone else said it, and shared that their biggest fear is when their mom crashes out over small things.
Yeah.
And standing in the back of the room, I really had to look in the metaphorical mirror. I had to ask myself, do I do this? Am I creating this environment in my own house?
It's a hard question to ask.
It is. And I really want to challenge the listener to sit with that uncomfortable truth for a moment. The thing your child might fear most in this entire world, it could be your reaction to them.
It's a painful realization.
Yeah.
But what was so great was how Coach AJ and the mentors took that raw vulnerability and used it to just beautifully reframe the whole concept of fear.
They really dismantled that Hollywood idea of bravery.
Right, this idea that being courageous means you don't feel scared at all. They explained that courage is not the absence of fear, it's a muscle.
A muscle you have to build.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But before you can build it, you have to understand the difference between what they called good fear and bad fear.
Which is such a crucial distinction because fear isn't always the enemy.
Right, and to drive this home, Mentor Bob took the floor.
Bob's story was intense.
The kids were absolutely captivated. He told them about being 9 years old, floating on a tube in a lake. And these older kids thought it would be funny to push him off into the deep water.
And they had no idea he couldn't swim.
None. He sank like a stone, and he described it so vividly you felt like you were right there in the water with him. He remembered the exact sensation of breathing in the liquid.
Just terrifying.
He thought he was entirely gone right before someone pulled him to the beach. And that story perfectly illustrates the biology of good fear.
Yeah, explain that analogy he used.
So think of good fear like a highly calibrated smoke detector in your house. When Bob was pushed into the water, his brain registered water in the lungs and triggered this massive deafening alarm to save his life.
Right, it dumped adrenaline into his system so he could fight to the surface.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism. Like the fear of touching a hot stove. It's designed entirely to keep you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob shared how that specific trauma actually drove him to become a lifeguard later in life.
Wow.
Yeah, he used that functioning smoke detector to prepare and protect himself and others.
But then Coach AJ stepped in to contrast that with bad fear. Because if good fear keeps you alive, bad fear actively prevents you from living.
Yes.
Bad fear is when that exact same biological alarm goes off, but there is no fire. It goes off just because you, looked at the toaster.
Right, it's a glitch in the system.
It's a total glitch.
Yep.
Coach AJ described it as the anxiety over made-up outcomes, the paralyzing worry about being laughed at for trying a new sport, or the dread of what people will think if you stand up for the bullied kid.
Because the brain's fear center, the amygdala, it really can't always tell the difference between a physical threat, like a tiger, and a social threat, like being embarrassed.
It dumps the exact same stress hormones into your body. And Coach AJ told this fantastic story about being with his friends and jumping off a 20-foot bridge into the water.
Oh, that was great. He was so transparent about it.
He fully admitted he was dead last to jump. He stood up on that ledge, and he let the bad fear, the anxiety of the unknown, completely paralyze him. He even said if he had been alone, he never would have jumped.
He was letting his brain invent these terrible scenarios that hadn't even happened.
Because bad fear is a reflex. It's automatic. But courage is a choice.
That is the core mechanism right there.
Yeah. Neurologically, courage is your logical brain stepping in to override that glitching smoke alarm. And just like lifting weights tears muscle fibers so they grow back stronger, every time you choose to override that bad fear, you are building new neural pathways.
You're literally making the courage muscle stronger.
And watching Coach AJ bring all this together was masterful. He threw down a challenge to the youth. He looked right at them and asked, "Are you a pull-up person or are you a push-down person?"
I love that phrase.
It connects directly to self-worth. He told them, look, bullies do not target strong, confident people. Bullies are opportunistic. They target those who devalue themselves.
Right, they look for easy targets.
Exactly. If you walk around letting bad fear dictate your life, you make yourself a target. But when you choose courage, it literally generates energy.
You could see the kids nodding when he said that.
Yeah.
He asked how many of them had done something scary, like a presentation, and then felt that massive rush of positive energy right after.
Oh, yeah, that adrenaline surge.
And the most beautiful part of that lesson was the reminder that courage is deeply contagious.
Yes.
Just like Coach AJ jumping off that bridge because he watched his friends go first. When you stand up for what's right, your courage gives the person next to you the strength to override their own bad fear.
But that contagion doesn't just happen on a bridge, it actually originates at home. If courage is a muscle, we have to look at the primary gym where these kids are training.
And that is the crucial pivot for us as parents.
I want to bring it back to that deeply uncomfortable truth from earlier. The kids who admitted their biggest fear was their parents' reactions.
Yeah.
We really have to ask ourselves, are we unknowingly installing these glitching smoke detectors in our kids? Are we creating the bad fear?
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Okay, go ahead.
Isn't a little bit of fear of your parents healthy? I mean, if my kid isn't at least a little afraid of my reaction when they mess up, won't they just run wild? We need discipline, don't we?
I completely understand why you'd ask that because it's how most of us were raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is a massive psychological difference between a child having a healthy respect for boundaries and a child experiencing a primal survival threat because of emotional volatility.
Okay, explain that difference. What does that actually look like in the house?
Okay, so healthy respect is knowing that if you break curfew, you lose your phone for a week. The consequence is predictable, it's logical, and the parent is calm. The child learns accountability. Bad fear is when the parent crashes out. It's when a spilled glass of milk or a bad grade results in screaming, slamming doors, or unpredictable emotional withdrawal.
Oh, wow.
When a parent loses emotional control, the adolescent brain doesn't process that as a lesson in discipline. It processes the parent as a physical threat. It triggers the amygdala.
It paralyzes them.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense. Because if your child's biggest fear on a random Tuesday is that you're going to emotionally explode over a messy room.
How can they ever come to you with a real crisis?
Right? If they're terrified of your reaction to a bad grade, they are absolutely not going to tell you if they're being bullied or if they made a massive, dangerous mistake. They'll hide it.
Because the bad fear tells them we aren't a safe place.
And look, I want to be fair here. Parenting is incredibly stressful. We are all carrying immense loads, working, paying bills, just trying to keep the lights on.
It's exhausting.
It is. And it is so easy to let that exhaustion bleed out into our reactions. We're human. But if we genuinely want our kids to have the courage to stand up to peer pressure, we have a profound responsibility to create a safe harbor at home.
And to be clear, a safe harbor does not mean a home with no rules.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
It means a home where they aren't paralyzed by the fear of our unpredictable reactions. They need to know that their home is the training ground. They can make a mistake, tell the truth, and know they won't be emotionally destroyed for it.
Which brings up another tough question. Are we actually modeling the courage we are demanding from them?
Oh, that's a good one.
In the session, one of the courage examples the mentors gave was taking the high road even when others treat you badly. Do our kids see us doing that?
Right. Do they see us taking the high road when someone cuts us off in traffic?
Or when a coworker treats us unfairly?
Right.
Or do they see us losing our temper and crashing out at the cashier in the grocery store?
Yeah.
Do they see us owning our mistakes and apologizing to them when we're wrong? Or do they see us putting on a mask of false confidence and letting our own bad fear dictate our behavior?
Because they are watching everything we do.
They are studying us. If we are push-down people when we get stressed, they're going to learn to be push-down people.
They absolutely absorb our modeled behavior over our spoken lectures. Every single time.
Every time.
And that actually leads perfectly into the practical action for this week. At the very end of the session, what I loved was that Coach AJ didn't ask these kids to go conquer their biggest, most paralyzing fear tomorrow.
Right. He didn't say, go solve your fear of abandonment by Friday.
Exactly. That would just overwhelm their amygdala and set them up for failure. Instead, he asked them to pick just one mid-level thing to tackle this week. Just one small rep to start building that courage muscle.
And parents, we need you to mirror this exact approach at home. Your first action this week is the conversation.
Just a conversation.
Right. Sometime in the next few days, sit down with your child. But do not make it a high-pressure interrogation across the kitchen table. Keep it casual. Maybe when you're driving in the car, where they don't have to make direct eye contact.
That's a great tip.
Just ask them what their mid-level challenge is for the week.
Right, ask them, what's one small thing you're avoiding because of bad fear? Is it raising their hand in history class? Is it deciding to sit with a different group at lunch?
And here's the absolute most important part of this. Do not fix it for them.
Oh, it's so tempting to fix it.
Oh, if they say they're afraid to talk to their math teacher about a grade, do not pick up your phone and email the teacher. Do not try to pave the road so they never have to experience discomfort.
You have to let them do it.
Just ask them, how do you plan to flex your courage muscle for this? Give them the agency to choose courage.
That is so vital. And your second action, and this one is entirely on you, the parent, is vulnerability. I'm giving you your own homework. I want you to share a recent moment of your own bad fear with your child.
I love this so much. They really need to see that we struggle with it too. It destroys the myth that adults are just naturally fearless.
Precisely. Tell them about a time this week you had to override your own glitching smoke detector. Say, this week at work, I was terrified to give this presentation, or I was really nervous about going to this neighborhood meeting where I didn't know anyone.
My brain was telling me I was going to sound stupid.
Yes. Explain the bad fear you felt, the completely made-up outcomes playing out in your head, and then tell them how you pushed through it anyway.
Show them what adult courage looks like in real time.
Oh.
That kind of vulnerability completely removes that fear of the perfect parent that causes so much anxiety for teenagers.
When you admit your fears, you give them permission to safely process theirs.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over this week. What if the misbehavior we constantly see in our kids, the defiance, the withdrawal, the anger, what if it isn't actually rebellion at all? What if it's just a poorly disguised manifestation of bad fear? What if their acting out is actually just them running in a panic from a glitching smoke detector that we unknowingly helped install?
Thank you for taking a few minutes to invest in your child's growth. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, like or comment on this episode, and share it with other parents who care about raising strong, capable young leaders. If you would like to learn more about Martin County PL or are interested in supporting or partnering with our program, please reach out. This work only happens because of people who believe in meeting youth where they are and helping them grow into who they can become. We appreciate you being part of that mission.